I mean,
Alright,
well,
Fifteens.
so hey, there
How
we
are you,
go.
Joe?
That falls right on the line of Zaz's RNG. So doesn't matter what system apparently. Uh, alright, so a while ago, um, eons ago, whenever the last session was, 1,000 years ago, whatever. I'm being dramatic. During the last session, 5 years had passed. Um, Everyone has gone on their own separate journeys and kind of really finding where they belong in the quadrant. Um, Formerly, Lance Corporal West works now on more of a mercenary private security job. Uh, Dr. Apricity holds the first independent Federation medical facility on Tholia, which is a huge, huge step. It's still kind of testy. There is only a few people that the Tholians will even consider talking to, and most of them it have to be able to handle the Tholian xenophobic comments that follow. Alaska has returned from the Gamma Quadrant after a 5 year journey uh, exploring that territory of space. Um, the the DeSoto, the Pathfinder class in which she now commands, it was on a routine trip to return to Earth for its refit and overhaul and crew turnover before things started going not well. The same goes with Neshik on a particular outpost planet side. All receiving the same signals, you all jumped into action, arriving at Earth and discovering that there were a fairly large ship housing a parasitic race that seemed quite determined to invade Earth. What the end goal is somewhat unknown, but it doesn't take too much to presume what they might want. There is currently several ships that are engaging with this vessel. It is a close to home attack. It is worrying as hell. However, there is another ship, and that ship is yours, Captain Phillips. It is a Titan class vessel, which is a fairly large ship. It is a little bit larger than the Luna class, a Luna class which holds a crew of about 350. The Titan class holds roughly double that. It's a larger ship, and much like her namesake from where she was constructed, she is deemed the USS Horizon, a state of the art Titan class ship with a firepower, science suites, everything to boot, and she's also the first ship that has been able to make regular stops across Alpha and Delta Quadrant. Now that there's a small station right along the edge of the innermost area of the Delta Quadrant. There are varying encounters with the USS Voyager between the Horizon, but for the most part, you've kept kind of at the edge of space. However, upon hearing there is an attack on Earth, making haste and in uh, immediate slipstream jump, you are able to make headway to get there as quickly as possible. The bridge itself is a it's a step forwards to even more advanced tech. Rather than using buttons or switches or LCARS control panels, this in fact uses a it uses a bioneural gel that somewhat reads neurological pathways and determine in creating faster response time and quicker tactical efficiency. The bridge itself is primarily compiled of reflective and dual viewing glass, giving a sort of as the ship is traveling in the slipstream and these stars are going by. The interior of the ship, aside from the obvious chairs of the controls and the stations, the interior of the bridge almost looks like it's floating, as space around you is being fed into this ship, and you're able to see the surrounding space, the nebulas, the stars, all of that, which pass. The helmsman, a young Bolian who is currently moving through the controls almost with fluidic motion like a pianist. She turns around. Captain, our ETA will be in 27 minutes.
Right, thanks for the update. Any word from any fleets or ships that are around Earth at the moment?
Well, there is a ship that you might be familiar with. I'm reading a pretty particular signal. The DeSoto looks like it's stationed at Earth, or rather near it. The planetary defenses are up on Earth.
Is there any way we can contact the DeSoto right now? Give them a heads up.
I could probably give them a hail, as long as they're not too busy.
Hail to DeSoto. Because I think I might know who the captain is.
One of the con or science officers aboard the DeSoto, probably just fresh out of Starfleet Academy, kind of turns and looks over to you, Alaska, and Captain, we're receiving a hail.
Who's it from, Ensign?
USS Horizon.
On main viewer.
The main viewer goes up, Captain Phillips, and Captain Notice Sky, you are, in fact, in communication with each other now.
Ah, Captain Phillips. I see you are on the way.
I see. So are you, Captain Alaska?
Actually, I'm in orbit right now. We're putting up an anti-tachyon web to try and detect this ship.
Oh, the Horizon, as we named, will be there in about 27 minutes. We're in slipstream at the moment.
Good. We could use all the ships we can for this net. The ship keeps slipping in and out of subspace to where it's hard to keep a sensor lock on them.
Well, that's just great. At least the defenses are up.
Earth's planetary shields are up on my recommendation.
Well, that's a good recommendation then. I would have done the same thing.
Ensign, is this communication secured?
It can be. One moment, Captain. Secured.
It's a parasite ship, Captain Phillips.
Ah, great. That's just what we need.
Which is why I recommended the planetary shields. If it was any other enemy, I would not. But with the parasites, they could infect anyone.
This is also true. So I will look to the helm to get an accurate time of how long it'll take us to get there. On Wayne's history.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was 27 minutes. I don't know if the time has changed.
We can if we. I don't know if we want to burn out one of our hubs, but we could probably cut that time in half. If we do,
Yeah,
slipstream
let's,
won't be an option afterwards.
let's not do that. Let's keep that as an option. Let's keep the switch stream active. Let's not burn it. Let's not burn that out.
Understood.
And what
Yeah,
is.
I'll be taking my free time.
Well, they don't seem to be too intent to try and breach the planetary shields right now.
Huh. Any other species would try to break through the planetary shield.
Indeed. And what is the status of the net at the moment?
The net is currently at about 60% complete.
Oh boy.
It will probably be completed by the time you get here, Captain.
Well, I'll be looking forward to seeing you again,
Okay.
Captain.
Captain.
And
The
you see a small smile on his face. Because, well, his commander is now captain. So, like, yeah, he's happy.
the when the view screen's cut off, for you, Alaska, one of your science officers looks over. I had an idea, Captain. It's not ideal, but it would get our net going a lot faster.
Let's hear it.
So obviously, Earth has a lot of, to use such a base term, has a lot of shit floating around it. Satellites, outposts, star bases, even nearby lunar stations nearby. Effectively, what I'm saying is we could widen that net and make it more efficient, making a more like a blanket, effectively. But we would have to utilize things like Earth space dock and a few other resources at our disposal. The only downside is we will be shutting down a lot of primary systems to use that much power.
And that might give them an in on infiltrating any of those systems.
Potentially, but what I'm thinking is using what we could, not to be rude or harsh, but using non-valuable targets that will just not pique their interest. We could use one of the lunar greenhouses. Could use. We could probably even use a couple of the dry dock communication systems from Utopia Planitia. We could make a large subspace tachyon net.
And
Downside is we'll probably have to try and resolve this in about 4 hours.
above board question, I would assume by this point the debris field that's present in our time has already been cleaned up.
Yeah.
Okay. I will make a hail to the admiral in charge of this fleet.
Okay.
And I will present the plan to them.
Okay. The admiral in charge of this fleet is a Betazoid. He looks a little frazzled, mainly because He is, to your knowledge, from what you understand, he's in the process of getting a refit vessel. It's just, it hasn't happened yet, because this vessel, by this standard, is a fucking dinosaur. It is an Excelsior class.
Ah,
Those things are kind of like the Mirandas, and they're like Toyota engines. They'll go forever, but like at a certain point, He looks around. Captain, I really hope you have good news because my systems obviously are a little outdated compared to yours.
indeed. One of my science ensigns came up with a unique solution. Ensign?
If we use non-essential systems across the board within the Sol system, within, let's say, let's say 2 million kilometers, we could create a wide, almost like a cast net. The basically kind of looks a little confused. What is it? It's a. Come down to my village later and we'll show you. It's effectively we could maybe catch them. We might even be able to block off their subspace rip or tear. We'd have to time it though once they're out.
I think it's worth doing, Admiral. But I wanted
options.
But I wanted your approval for attempting it.
I appreciate that. Not all captains follow that example. So, I have permission to get started then, Captain?
Proceed, Ensign.
Alright, I'm gonna need engineering help with this, and I know she's not gonna like this, because to power it, to create basically a shockwave net, we kinda have to burn out our warp core.
Well, good thing we're in the Sol system. It will be easy to replace our warp core.
I mean, we do have the small... I might be able to compromise. I'll just use some of the cores from the shuttles.
That is also a very good point. And I think I know just the way to bribe her into a good mood to help you. And I will briefly go to my ready room and take out a 1890 bottle of Scotch whiskey.
How the you know what? Never mind. That will work. I'm gonna go get started. As they go off to do that, Neshik, I believe, timing-wise, I think you would arrive roughly at the same time as West, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
So for each person's perspective, for you, West, there's a lot of vessels. A lot of Starfleet vessels ranging from Excelsior to Saber to Sovereign, couple of Nebula, no, not Nebulas, Sutherland class, even a couple older models that seem to refuse to die, like the Miranda. But what's really odd is what drops out of warp parallel to you is a Romulan scout shuttle, which is not typical. For you, Neshek, the ship that drops out is I believe they're called a K-17 freighter. Both not large ships. But for you, Neshek, the Romulan quotation superior that you have, looks over. Well, I'm glad you got distracted and was curious about this because this got me out of my office and it was really boring in there.
I find it funny that you describe my job as looking out for strange things and finding something strange as getting distracted, but we can talk about that at our next one.
We don't have to. Okay, from what I
Do we hail this
understand...
neighbor, or...
Hmm?
Do we hail our neighbors here, or...
I mean, we probably should, so we don't accidentally get shot, but I'm not really sure what's going on either. The hail goes through to the ship that you're on, West, and a woman's voice that you're not familiar with. There is no, like, Romulan superiority or arrogance behind it. It's just very matter of fact. Hello? I see the hail went through. So one of you can respond, please.
Neshek just has her face in her hands at just the complete lack of communication procedure.
The freighter captain responds. Who is this? Please enlighten us. We're kind of on a timetable here. I think I made an error, and I realized that error, and maybe you should respond instead.
Neshek, before she finishes, Neshek like pushes the button to bring it over to her. We're investigators from the Vulpes Institute. Checking out some odd activity that came up on our sensors. Identify yourselves, please.
We don't really have a name for the ship, but I can send over its registry number.
That is sufficient.
Sends over. It's Federation approved. It's just not Starfleet.
Contractors. All right.
Yeah.
I'm Lieutenant Commander Neshek, again with the Vulpes Institute, following up on a particularly odd set of warp signatures and gravitational waves in this area. As you can probably see, both with your naked eye and on your sensors, there is quite the unusual vessel currently headed en route towards Terra.
It looks like it stopped there, but it kind of also looks like it vanished again. I'm seeing a lot of Starfleet signals, though.
Indeed. My primary concern right now is coming up with a more reliable way to track that vessel's movements and intentions. But its behavior makes this difficult. I will coordinate with Starfleet elements as necessary, but... And I'll sort of shoot a glance over at my supervisor. It is possible that discretion may need to be exercised here.
Kind of reciprocates that thought. For you, Wes, you do hear Neshek, which is a familiar name to you, though you haven't really spoken to them in 5
We
years.
were on the prison. But
yeah,
that
I know,
was
but like haven't spoken in like 5 years, so
yeah.
maybe like rough little communiques here and there, but nothing too extravagant. Arriving at Seoul proper, you get a full display of 29 vessels, all kind of spread out in like an equidistant manner. For Alaska and Captain Phillips, you would arrive right about now, along with 2 ships that just drop out of warp as you drop out of Slipstream. Alaska, you know the horizon is here, and now there are 2 smaller ships, probably a little bit. One about the size of a Danube runabout, and the other the size of maybe a Valiant class vessel.
Well, Alaska would have kept her eye on West as he was doing mercenary work, because he did offer to join as a merc on the DeSoto for a little bit before he went his own separate way.
Mm-hmm.
And he might have gotten opportunities from secret factions, let's just say.
Potentially.
But she will hail the smaller ship.
Okay. The smaller Romulan scout shuttle is, the screen is brought up, and there is a Romulan woman who is dressed in a much more human attire than is typical with most Romulans, and a Lieutenant Commander Neshik as well.
Ah, Neshik, long time no see.
Same to you, Commander.
It is Captain now.
My mistake.
So just so you're aware, you are aware of the ship that we're trying to detect and capture.
Yes, we detected it over at the Vulpes Institute and, well, followed it here before losing it sporadically, it seems.
Considering what we know of the intruder, your little ship probably would not be safe out here.
I defer to your expertise, Captain.
That sounds like we should probably go to the shuttle bay.
I will transmit to them the shield harmonic so that they can pass through into the shuttle bay without us dropping our shields.
Mm-hmm. If you don't want to drop shields, you could perhaps send me the... I realize it's a bit taboo for you, Starfleet, but perhaps let us know what your shield harmonics are?
Indeed. And she'll go to her science ensign. Transmit those codes now, please.
Is this one of those under-the-table things and I just don't log that?
Probably safer that you do.
Okay. Alright. Just for record, I was ordered to do this.
Well, they technically are on our side, so they are working with the
I
Vulcan.
know they're on our side, but you know how certain admirals are.
I can deal with him. Don't worry.
Okay. Shield harmonic sent.
And judging by the ensign's attitude, I assume that she is speaking about Jericho.
Yeah. He's a high-ranked admiral, and he's gotten there because he definitely deserves the position. He's just an ass.
Well, he met his match with Alaska, so.
But the shield harmonics go through. The other vessel, for you, West, you're watching a Romulan scout shuttle just go through a shield.
Yes, because that's not a security violation whatsoever.
Relax, it'll be fine.
Okay. Neshik, you are now aboard the DeSoto. The DeSoto is a ship that is very innovative in its technology. To say the interior of the ship looks like you are walking through the future in a Star Trek universe is no small feat, but it truly looks like you are seeing, like, probably 50 years into the future stepping aboard this vessel.
And if Neshek is going to the bridge, she would probably arrive on the bridge with Alaska in mid conversation or being chewed out by her chief engineer.
Probably the latter, just one of those. Just she's the to say your chief engineer like has her hand pressed into her forehead and kind of looking up at you like a somewhat like angered dog. She wants to do what?
Use non-essential systems throughout the most closest to create a blanket instead of a grid.
Okay, that seems all well and fine, but what about the part where all of my shuttles are going to lose their warp cores?
Would you rather the shuttles lose the warp cores or the main warp core?
I mean, neither would be the most ideal, but if we're going with shuttles, in case things go horribly wrong, when the ship inevitably has a cascade failure and it feedback loops through us, causing irreparable damage, let's hope those shuttles at full impulse can outrun a shockwave.
Let us hope, and this will be your reward. And I put the bottle of whiskey down at her station.
This seems like a bribe. This very much seems like a bribe, Captain. It's working, but I just want you to know that I know that this is a bribe.
I didn't say it wasn't.
Minor compromise.
Let's hear it.
The Type 11 shuttle, we do not take the warp core out of that. If we need a exterior warp core, then it won't get us higher than warp 3, but if we need it, I'd rather have it than not.
Deal.
I hate that you do this every time.
Just a word of warning. Go easy on that whiskey. It is very alcoholic.
Really? The whiskey from way back when is alcoholic?
Well, even more so that it has been aging since that time.
Captain, I have great respect for your ability to command and your ability to navigate the Gamma Quadrant, but I must say sometimes you are filled with astute statements.
But let's see about finishing this net.
I will help the ensign accomplish and finish these nets, and I will do my utmost best to not throw a fit. But I promise nothing.
And nor would I expect you. I brought you on for your expertise, not for niceties.
Bedside manners for doctors, anyways.
Unless you're babying a warp core.
I had descendants that worked on the NX project, so no. She just saunters off to do whatever. With doctors being mentioned, yeah, Opacity, you sneeze. No, just kidding.
I would sneeze if I had the biological components for it.
But Opacity, were you still aboard, still at the medical facility on Tholia, right?
I believe I was waiting for Dr. Bashir to get back to me on whether or not I could let the weird signature I knew go, or if I should, actually be a member of Starfleet.
Yeah, it takes a while by your account, because you're actually a fair bit away from everyone else, as Dr. Bashir does finally get to respond back to you again, but this is actually dressed in that medical greens and such. Alright, so, good news. There's a fleet that is dealing with it to some degree. Bad news. Parasitic race. And they seem pretty hell-bent on trying to get onto Earth.
Your confidence in the situation is astounding me right now, Doctor.
Oh, no, this is a bold-faced lie to myself, mostly, to make the patient and the recipient feel better. I unfortunately cannot acquisition a ship to get you there, but I could perhaps reposition a couple of communication buoys to get you in direct line with the people there.
Yeah, that would be helpful. I don't actually, hopefully I won't actually need a physical platform over there.
We shouldn't. Looks like, at least from what last I heard, the DeSoto is over there, and the DeSoto can support a holographic emergency crew if they need it.
If you would send the request on, then I would really appreciate it. I'll make sure to get in contact with my boss on Tholia.
I will move the thing along. That whole shit, that sounds like such a bad idea.
I'd be fine with the whole ship crewed by Apricity. I don't know, can Apricity run two platforms at once? I know they're already technically running on their mainframe and their android body, but like...
You could. It would just be one of those things where you would have to allocate certain skills to certain, like, ones. Makes
sense. But yeah, if Dr. Bashir, obviously, I would like to be able to help Starfleet if I'm capable, so I'll wait for Dr. Bashir to get me in contact with the DeSoto. But other than that, I'm going to be trying to get any information from the doctor that I can and asking my coworkers if they've ever heard of anything like that, since the knowledge base between Thalia and Starfleet is pretty diverse.
Yeah, there's some know about it. The little bits that you are getting from some of your colleagues is they're very resilient to cold. However, they seem pretty susceptible to heat.
Hmm. What else do they know? Do they have a name?
They don't really have a particular. The beings don't really have a name. Only that they've been encountered a couple of times, and they are thought to be symbiote adjacent. Maybe.
But they're not like the Borg, right? They're
They're biological.
like, I'm good.
Yeah, you're fine. They actually probably would not be able to affect you at all.
Okay.
Surprisingly, once again, for you, Alaska, you're getting another hail. Captain, this is a hail from Earth Medical?
Put it through, and then we seem to be the communications hub for today.
I mean, it makes sense. We have some of the fastest systems. A very recognizable face, mainly because they held such a unique position aboard DS9 during the earlier years of their career, is a somewhat grayed and aging Commander Julian Bashir.
Commander,
I apologize for my sudden interruption. I understand you're up and dealing with something rather stressful.
you could say that.
I got into contact with Dr. Apricity, and they are willing to add aid, though I don't believe they want to add aid in a Starfleet capacity and more as a medical consultant capacity. Now that I can't acquisition a ship to retrieve them, however, I could get their program to you.
The doctor's file is pretty large, but we do have some of the most state-of-the-art holographic technology on board this ship.
Well, that's what I let them know, and if I can get that through, it should be only, and we can probably sift through some non-essential systems that they likely won't need, but for the most part, I understand you're, from what I can ascertain, just little bits of communications that I am aiming to get, it seems like the rest of the fleet up there is kind of in a stalemate.
And then, can you make this line secure again?
I just made it secure again, just automatic. I figured we might as well just start keeping it be secure always.
Commander Bashir, what I'm about to say does not go past your office.
I'm pretty good about keeping doctor-patient confidentiality.
It's the parasites, Dr. Bashir.
I see. Well, that's unfortunate. I would have... If I had known that, I would have stopped someone who is a little bit more familiar with it, but unfortunately she is off-planet.
And I doubt the Trill will be able to help us. If rumors are what of them being related to the Trill symbiotes is true.
Yeah, and in addition to that, Trill is a little over 100 light years away, so that makes things a little difficult.
Doctor, with your experience with both Jadzia and Ezri Dax, was there anything that the symbionts were susceptible to? Like any biological effects?
As far as biological effects, no, but the little bit of research that I've gotten from particular scientists and colleagues, because sometimes inquisitive minds get bored and shift through files. From what I understand, they might be able to... A creature like that has to have some sort of weakness, whether it's they can't stay out of water for too long or something along those lines. But there's certainly a give and take for a creature like that.
I was hoping that once we are able to readily track the vessel, we might be able to introduce something into their environment that might potentially not kill them, but at least paralyze them to where they're not a threat.
Well, that would
Because
be a task.
Because with the amount that we were able to detect, and what was the number that we got from the scans?
It's over a couple million.
I would have to assume there is a queen on board.
What a unfortunate terminology. We seem to find a lot of enemies that have mindsets like that.
Indeed. And if I had my choice, I would rather face the Borg than these things.
Don't jinx that. Don't do that. Bad omens and such.
Indeed. But yes, please send Dr. Apricity's files so that we can get them uploaded to our holographic net.
Shouldn't take. I'm already in the process of doing so. It should take another 3 minutes or so, and then another 4 to transfer across.
And then coordinate with holographic control to make sure that the doctor's transition to our systems is as smooth as possible.
I can do that. For the time being, I could, I guess, shuffle away the EMH Mark III and use that spare space to insert Dr. Apricity. I know she won't like that, but I don't know how to allocate the rest of the space. She'll still be stored, she just won't be able to be active around the same time. Apricity's more complicated.
Could we shut down one of the hollow suites and use that power, since we're not using it in a battle scenario?
If we canceled out all 3 hollow suites, we could do it. And probably have to knock out 2 holographic decks. Probably 15 and 14.
Then do so, because I don't know about you, but I would prefer that the EMH Mark IV did not have cause to chew me out.
Yeah, I suppose that's a good idea. Alright, yeah, I'll get on that.
And we're ready for you, Dr. Bashir, to transfer Apricity.
I am almost complete with the transfer. I would suggest that because the DeSoto has a bit more advanced technology, that you use your ship as the command hub.
We will do so.
Paco, what the fuck?
I've done nothing wrong in my life ever.
Oh my god.
We know this and we support you.
What the okay.
Yeah, it was on Paco. I just added on to. He just made it on.
Alright, arriving at this command, West, what are you doing? That's a good question here.
Considering we had just dropped out of warp from the ship after coming through Horizon, or at least that was what I was remembering.
Mm-hmm.
West is just going along with what the crew of the ship that he's currently with is going with, because he again intentionally did not take a command posting.
Huh, weird. Alright, after a little bit, this ship manages just to have not become a complication. Will dock itself within one of the expansive Titan class shuttle bays, because a small ship like that is likely to cause problems more than anything else. And actually, this would be a time for you, West, to encounter Captain Phillips as they are beaming over to the DeSoto. What are you people doing?
You know, I don't even know anymore.
Alright. So,
seeing him beam over, the first thing that Captain Phillips would see is probably West, not in any sort of Federation uniform, probably the only time he has seen him out of Federation uniform, having gone to private security.
mm-hmm.
Kind of looks like, if you could imagine the Star Trek Enterprise jumpsuits or flight suits that they used to have, but more black, very paramilitary looking, since he's working well for a paramilitary / private security group.
Okay.
He does have a pulse pistol on his hip because he keeps himself armed at all times.
Mm-hmm.
Since they're on the ship, he doesn't really have any sort of armor or a rifle or anything else.
All right.
Although the collapsible pistol is still tucked behind his belt somewhere.
Okay. After a little bit of discussion, some of your private security crew is actually brought along to the DeSoto only because they're private security. They can kind of do a few things that the Federation Starfleet really isn't allowed to do. So with Captain Phillips, West, and all of that, the ready room to the DeSoto is very crowded.
And Aneska is sitting at her desk, and she has like 10,000 pads on the desk at any given moment.
The second Apricity is properly uploaded, she's already nagging Aleska to take a break. Hi! haven't seen you in 5 years. You're supposed to have third shift off.
Well, I do what I can, but sometimes captains don't get the luxury of
A second hologram kind of appears, like, with a holographic pad and, like, does a scan and a note. There is no rank pips to denote, but the, like, medical green, this is the EMH. You know, I keep telling her that, and she doesn't listen, so...
I had to start locking her out of her office eventually.
Oh, what's a hologram to do if... I mean, I could do that, except I don't have as much...
I'm going to take the EMH by the metaphysical shoulders.
Okay.
Literally just lock her out.
Oh, like...
Like, physically.
You know, that never has occurred to me.
I can hear you, doctors.
Is this convincing you to take a break?
When the current crisis is over,
I think a break is not needed in this case. I think at the end of this, Captain, and seeing as we are going for a refit, and I will be taking or I would ideally like to take a few weeks off. I am not requesting and more ordering that after all of this, you take a shore leave.
and I give her a very direct look. Shore leave. After what happened on Narinda, I don't think so.
You are taking a break, Captain, at some point. I will, as per Dr. Picity's suggestion, you might just wake up in the holosuite.
I raise an eyebrow. If the sedative even works.
I don't need a sedative, Captain. I'm also a psychologist.
Indeed, and I have used that function many times during the last 5 years.
Yes, you have. So, allow me to be a little direct and say, even if a sedative doesn't work, a bit of rest will do you good. You might wake up in the holosuite, but you'll never know it.
I chuckle, and then, but down to business. We have a ship to try and capture.
The ensign kind of looks around awkwardly at people that most definitely outrank her. I guess this is where I talk, I think.
Yes, my apologies. Continue.
Yeah, so she kind of lays out her plan, and it's not a bad plan. There are some risks to it, obviously. But it's not a horrid plan. So in conclusion, if we use the warp cores to kind of supercharge it, it'll act like a cast net and also kind of like a highlighter. It should give us at least an outline.
And an outline's all tactical will need, and I look at my tactical officer.
If I can see it, I can shoot it.
Ensign, back up a moment. When you scanned that ship and detected the 2 million life signs, Was there any part of the ship where they were more densely packed, or was it just a general?
Going back on it, I think it was more center that was more densely packed.
Then we might consider targeting that. And I look at my tactical officers. If these behave as we're thinking they do, then the queen must be there.
Yeah, well, somehow I don't feel like it's gonna be that easy either.
It will probably be the most shielded part of the ship. But I would prefer to disable the ship instead of destroying it.
Well, if we had a way to get aboard safely and had ordnance expertise, maybe, but no one on the DeSoto has that.
And these parasites are rather insidious in how they infect a host.
Yeah, let's not think about that. Unless any of the rest of you have brought any sort of experience?
Not with regards to ordnance, but
I mean, if you need something blown up, I can do that.
if you need something subtle, I can do that.
Well, we would need subtlety to knock out the shields very briefly. And then from there, we could get a ordnance crew to sneak aboard, detonate some charges on whatever shield harmonic generators they have, and from there we could disable the ship and beam those people out. It's a high risk operation, but at this stage I don't know what else to do.
I would like to kind of look through Starfleet records that I had access to at the very least, and see if there's any record of how big the Queen was. That was at Starfleet Command.
It wasn't super large by like comparison, but I mean it was probably a couple feet in length. It was fairly decent in size.
And if we were to, then I say to the rest of the people in the room, if we were to able to capture the Queen, we might be able to start a dialogue, or at least get them to stop attacking.
We could try that, but I don't know how willing they'd be.
Doctor, and I go to the EMH, do you think? And I give her the data on the Queen from Starfleet Command. Do you think you can erect a containment facility for her?
Probably, as long as I have someone with the equivalent knowledge to do that. Which I believe Dr. Prissity is more than experienced for that.
I am here in a medical capacity. Only. Exclusively, I should say.
But then if we do that, we could still knock out their shields, disable their vessel. Is this kidnapping, Captain? I feel like this is whatever. have them with a. I would say we could probably up the ante and do a level 14 containment shield and attempt to open a dialogue from there. There's a lot of wires to cross, but this is the best plan I think that all of you have come up with.
The alternative would be to completely destroy the ship, and I would rather not do that.
If the ship's completely destroyed, there's too many unknown factors.
And so this, I think, would be the best path forward.
Alright. So, the science ensign kind of speaks up. So I heard at least some of the people here are good at blowing stuff up. That would work for the shield generator problem. Then
Do we have any joined trill on board?
you do have one joined trill on board, yes.
What's their rank?
They are a lieutenant.
That would probably be a high of enough rank. I would bring them into this meeting.
Alright.
Because from what limited information we have been able to gather, these things might be somewhat related to the Trill symbionts. That's why you're being brought into this, Lieutenant.
Alright. Well, I figured it was something kind of drastic. A lot of rumors floating around lower decks, but this is concerning.
Indeed, and unfortunately, I think that after all this is over, the Symbiosis Commission will probably be wanting to interview us.
I don't want to go through that again. Don't get. Ugh.
But we need.
If we do complete that and they do take a peaking interest, can we let the USS Horizon deal with that? I'm sure they have more joint trill, and also I'm sure Captain Phillips can handle it.
I'm sure he could. And I look at Phillips.
If you are speaking, you are muted.
I haven't said anything.
Okay.
I know those two talks. I know the contact the USS Horizon. So I was just traveling, trying to get to this other one time.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you're there now. Alright. Yeah, with that, then, is that the kind of rough plan that you've kind of settled on, then? Sneak aboard,
Yeah.
disable, kidnap.
Hey, be like old times.
And I go to West. This might come in handy for you, and I will hand over the special rifle that is Alaska's favorite, so that you can tag the Queen without having to go near her.
Very well.
And it's the teleporting phaser rifle.
Ah, the TR-116.
Mm-hmm. And it's an accompanying headset.
Yeah, it's also, kind of one of those weapons that is sort of in that gray space with Starfleet.
But Alaska's proficient in it.
It's also probably one of those things where it's like, why didn't you tell me you had this? Well, you never asked. All right. So, a couple things to enact this plan here. I need, let's see. Neshik would have to make a insight or reason science check with a difficulty of 3.
Insight or reason science.
Mm-hmm.
My insight is going to be better, so that would be 11 plus 4, 15 to beat.
Yep.
Or 15 to get under.
Yep.
So this is to deactivate, to basically trigger their shields, correct?
Yeah, basically to slip in, yeah.
I don't think I have any focuses there. Well, is this enough to count as physical infiltration?
Yeah.
Alright, then I have a focus that applies. I don't think I have any talents that apply. Except for Incisive Scrutiny, my favorite talent.
Yeah.
Am I using the ship's computers? Because then I get to reroll a d20.
Yeah, you'll have to be using the DeSoto's computers.
Okay, I didn't know. But okay then. That is... So. 20, we're off to a great start. 17. I'm going to reroll a 20 for a 7.
Okay, so focus applies.
That doesn't... Yeah, okay.
Okay. So
Not good.
you're able to at least put disruption in it and trying to kind of little blips of interruption to try and get a transporter team through. The only problem now is where you want it to have regular intervals. The intervals are a bit more sporadic and a bit more random.
Non-ideal, but acceptable.
Okay. No one will panic so long as I don't tell them.
Whoever is leading the infiltration team should move with alacrity and just be quick. I'm not sure how long individual gaps in their shields will last, either before they notice or before they resolve themselves. Oh god, does this mean I'm gonna have to fucking drive?
No.
Okay, good.
Alright.
I have to drive through the mess I created.
So, with that being the case, West, how many people are you comfortable bringing with you to this type of thing? Is this more of a solo thing that you're willing to do, or is this more of small team?
Wes would be willing to go solo, but also knows that that could also go bad. So having other people there wouldn't hurt,
Okay.
but probably keep the team small, no more than maybe 4 people.
Okay. You were definitely able to do that.
And against her better judgment, Alaska will stay on board the DeSoto. She's been chewed out more often than not by her first officer in the last 5 years for going on away mission.
Yeah. Your XO that was stationed with you is unfortunately not on ship anymore, but their scoldings still stick. Alright. to save a little time, West, you beam aboard this, or you prepare to beam aboard this vessel as Science Officer kind of looks to you, Alaska. Ready to cast a net?
Let's see what kind of fish we catch.
A couple of switches flip on, or rather the LCARs kind of flash, and you are able to see the outline, that like multi-pointed star shape to the ship, as the transporter chief on deck 8 is able to, alright, here goes nothing, and beams West and 3 other members aboard this vessel. I'm gonna roll and see how accurate his transporter was. Oh my god.
I was just about to send over something, and then I heard to skip ahead, and I was like, oh, okay, so
What were you about to send?
a list of things that West would be grabbing before beaming over.
Yeah, we can skip over that a little bit. You could probably just find it aboard the DeSoto, more than likely. The DeSoto's captain is not very rule following in certain degree, so it's not too hard to find certain things. Okay, so this this transporter chief did a job on the transporting. Because that is a 1 and a 2. He did really well.
Ooh, nice.
Using a bit of bit of accurate transporter, West, you actually beam within about 100 meters of this shield generator, with the other 3 that are accompanying you. They all have, taking no chances, they have pulsed phaser rifles.
Yeah, that would be well. In order to keep himself a little bit lighter, he would probably have the 2 pistols, the body armor, the grenades and shield generator, if those are personal shield generator, if those were available as well.
Mm-hmm.
But because he has that TR-116 rifle, he'd probably just stick to the pistols. Carrying 2 rifles is a little bit cumbersome. I don't care what video games say.
Well, yeah, of course it would be. But yeah, you were able to find the shield generator, which kind of looks like almost an archway. 2 archways, one going one direction, like east-west, the other going north-south.
Mm-hmm.
But they are undeniably shield generator type of assemblies. Well, that was, as one of the people that's beamed over, that went way smoother than I expected it to.
Let's get to work.
Yeah. Alright. Why don't you, Wes, do an engineering security roll? Difficulty 3.
Engineering security?
Mm-hmm.
Not control or daring with one of those?
No control would apply here.
Okay, because that was going to give me a 9. This is a little bit more doable. Alrighty, so it's 15 to succeed. Does my tactics and or ordinances come into play here?
Yes.
Awesome. And do we have any momentum from the guy beaming us over? Because he did get a 1 and a 2, so that would have been 3 successes. Or no, that was going to match, wasn't it?
Hold on. I'm just doing something. You'd have 1 momentum.
Alrighty. You know what? I'm going to save it in case. Just in case.
Okay.
Sorry.
Rolling a 3 and a 6. 3 successes.
Perfect. All right. The charges are attached. Everything seems perfect how it should be. And currently, from what you can determine, no one is the wiser right now.
Alrighty. Once this goes off, expect company. Let's be quick.
Alright. They kind of flip a switch on the phaser rifle and it tosses up a optic of some kind, as well as the tip of it kind of flashes a orange red, as it is set to basically an automatic fire mode. So, West, how much time do we need before this starts going off?
I don't know if we were ever told that.
That feels like maybe we should make some distance from here.
Distance is always good when in regards to explosives. He says as he's walking away.
You do be okay, and they're just gonna follow. All right.
And then, yeah, if we weren't really given any sort of like time frame to complete all this, once West is a good distance away, he will explode the shield generators.
Okay.
Yes, much like that GIF that is now in the chat.
Jesus.
All right. For the DeSoto in the horizon, you were able to see suddenly beaming over, and there is a long pause. Probably an uncomfortable 5 or 6 minutes. And suddenly, a piece of it you can watch as there is a side that just kind of blows outwards in this red-white flash.
Target their engines.
Aye, Captain.
And remember, we want to disable, not destroy.
So use phasers, not torpedoes. Okay. The ship is effectively disabled.
Right. If the sort of miss, I was gonna have Horizon shoot too.
Hmm?
If the DeSoto miss, I was gonna have Horizon try to disable it. If the DeSoto didn't do it.
Yeah. I mean, both ships probably would assist in disabling, just to be absolutely sure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
With the parasite ship disabled, next comes the new task, which is within Apricity's wheelhouse. And that is going to be an insight or reason medicine check. With a difficulty of 2.
Second. I mean, I don't even need to roll if we're using reason because I can get 2 free
Oh, well then.
successes.
Generate
with
that
my,
momentum.
Talents. Yeah, but I rolled anyway. I got a 7 and a 11.
Okay. I'm guessing both under
Which are both successes.
So 3 momentum then. With that being the case then, you were able to locate the parasite queen and transport them into a level 14 containment field.
Delightful.
The EMH comm badges up to both Captain Phillips and Captain of the Sky. Captains, we have the parasitic queen in sickbay. They are a very unwilling and unhappy patient.
I will be down in a moment, doctors. And I motion to the joined trill to accompany me as well.
Oh, okay. Yep, we're doing that. Alright. The DeSoto sickbay is a lot like how Voyager's was, though being a little bit larger and has a little bit better technological advancements, but for the most part, just kind of on one of the sickbay beds is honestly pretty disgusting looking parasitic life form.
I would also like to do a little bit of a retcon and say that I would also have informed the fleet admiral
Okay.
that we have the queen and invite him to the DeSoto.
Alright, yeah, he'll be there too. So within this sickbay area, it is the EMH Mark III, Dr. Apricity, the Admiral, Captain Phillips, and you, Alaska.
Dr. Pricity's actually going to blue screen. I'm sorry. I'm really not feeling very well.
Alright,
I'm sorry. Good night.
good night.
Right.
Oh, good night.
I mean, transferring over like 34 light years is not easy on anyone.
It's true.
Want some diagnostics?
Alright. But yeah, for the two of you, this parasitic life form is, on the sickbay bed, looking very displeased, as well as this Trill, who is there as well.
Is the Trill symbiote having any reaction to the queen?
The Trill looks very uncomfortable.
Lieutenant?
This is just, it's weird, and I don't know how to explain it. I just unease.
So I would have the universal translator running at maximum, trying to get any sort of language, anything at all from the queen.
Okay. It takes an annoyingly long time to a point where the computer isn't going for audio translation anymore. It's just bringing up text boxes because it apparently cannot handle whatever this thing's trying to do.
And which admiral is with us? Jellicoe?
No. Now that the situation's been semi-resolved, it would be Admiral Clancy. She would be the one here.
I am Captain Alaska Noto Sky. This is Captain Phillips, and this is Admiral Clancy. Why were you coming to Earth?
It takes a while for the Universal Translator to pick out what it's saying. But it roughly translates to for resource. Care to expand on that, Your Majesty? I don't particularly like what that implies. Nothing.
Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get much out of the Queen.
Yeah, I've determined that.
I hate to do it, but maybe we should ask the Trill Symbiosis Commission if they can be of any assistance here.
It would take a few days to get them here.
And even then, considering how secretive they usually are, they probably wouldn't help much either.
It's worth trying. We could try and reach out to the ambassadors and see if they'd be willing to send an envoy or two. We could even add the stipulation that whatever the findings between, shall we say, only the immediate operatives within this fleet. It keeps the number small and keeps their comfort level high.
Yes. And I will direct my communications officer to relay that.
They go off to do that. But Admiral Clancy turns to you, and despite being a woman of age, still has a huge amount of presence to her. Captain, I don't think I need to tell you that in order to keep this particular life form here, we can't really risk the rest running free.
That is true. And from what scans we were able to do, there's 2 million of them on board that ship.
Well, then I would like that number to drop to 0.
What are your orders, Admiral?
The Titan can take the Titan-class vessel, like the Horizon, can tractor beam a ship like that out of Sol. Once out of that range, I don't care how you get rid of it. Get rid of it.
How is the Queen reacting to this? Are we doing this in the sick bay or out in the corridor?
It's more out in the corridor.
I am concerned that the queen might have if she acts like earth insects do, then she might have a hive mind connection to her progeny. She might become even more uncooperative after we destroy the ship.
Well, if she becomes uncooperative, then her usefulness to any sort of communicative endeavor does expend its usefulness, doesn't it, Captain?
Indeed, and we saw what they tried to do at Starfleet Command.
Yeah, a wound I'm not particularly fond of and not one I'd like to repeat.
And I turned to Captain Phillips. Let's get this thing out of the system.
Sounds good to me. The faster we get it out of here, the better.
Does the DeSoto have quantum torpedoes?
Yes, you don't have a large complement of quantum torpedoes just because you are technically a smaller ship. The DeSoto, when it's fully stocked, though it has since been used, when the DeSoto is fully stocked, it has 52 photon torpedoes and 12 quantum torpedoes as a payload.
I think between the two of us, Captain Phillips, with 1 or 2 quantum torpedoes, we should be able to very successfully destroy the ship.
Well, by all means, let's get rid of this thing.
Notice guide to security. I wanted around-the-clock detail on sick bay until further notice.
Much like she does, unlike any of the other EMHs, the EMH Mark III, she's a little different in which, personal space and privacy, not really a thing, as she kind of just pops into existence, like, next to everyone. What would help is I could stay active. I can't be affected by her.
That is true.
The Trill, like, having, like, this minor heart attack from someone being, like, just poofing in front of them. Doctor, I don't know how to tell you this. We are right outside the court. You could just use the door. I could. I didn't want to. And then she vanishes. Ugh.
And I will inform my chief engineer that until further notice, the EMH Mark III is to remain active.
Just hear a disdainful groan over the comm badge, but nothing further. No complaint that follows.
And I would also say to my security officer that those that are in the rotation for guarding the queen are to have personal shields on them at all times,
Right.
as a countermeasure to being infected.
Mm-hmm. Alright. After things have settled down, the ship is dragged out of the Sol system beyond Neptune and is blown to smithereens via quantum torpedoes. Just how extreme are all of you going? Like, are you firing just one apiece, or are you firing a couple?
I assume we're firing 2 at the same time to minimize debris so that it's all contained in one explosion.
Alright. Still, that's 4 quantum torpedoes. That's nothing to sneeze at. That's huge. It is a light show as they vanish.
And while we are disposing of the parasite ship, I'm keeping an open feed to sickbay to see if the queen reacts at all.
If it did, it's really good at pretending it didn't.
Understood.
But there is a bit of time that then passes, a few days, and the Trill Science Commission is able to arrive. You, unfortunately, though being at the forefront of it, did not get the direct negotiations. That fell purely under the purview of Starfleet Command and the Admiralty. You were asked by Admiral Clancy and a couple of other admirals here and there in like the brief recesses for a bit of like information, but it's nice not to be directly in the spotlight.
And plus, she doesn't want to deal with the Trok Symbiosis Commission anyway.
Yeah. That being the case and all of that, eventually things begin to settle down. The DeSoto is currently stationed at Earth Space Dock and shipyards, where it is undergoing what is a heavy refit since its departure in the Gamma Quadrant. When it is done, an extra deck will be added onto the DeSoto. A new astrometric suite will be added in as well.
And could Alaska ask for ablative armor?
The ablative armor is added onto the DeSoto now because might come up in To Boldly Go, but you might have encountered a few things over in the Gamma Quadrant that really warranted why that should have been a thing. However, the newer, at the end of this, the DeSoto will have 20 decks. It will now be able to contain a crew of 202. The massive enlisted and crew member overhaul of officers and such is a huge turnover. The crew itself looks very, very different. On Earth, Fleet Captain Phillips is given a particular offer to be basically the second most prominent ship to explore the far-reaching edges of the Beta Quadrant. But you won't be doing it alone. You'll be doing it with a fleet of 6 other vessels.
I mean, that's fine. I mean, I'll probably the Horizon. So, someone likely, yeah. I would accept it, and I will look over the ships that's the fleet of 6 ships that's going to be with the Horizon.
The classifications of ships that would be with you would be a Sagan class, a Sutherland. There is, there's 2 Reliant classes and a couple of others that are relatively new, but that could handle themselves. For other people like West, I'm guessing you're probably going back into the private sector would be my guess. Still. And then for Neshik, should she wish it, there is a position available on a vessel. It's not a large vessel.
Oh,
It's a Nova class. The USS Hypatia, or rather USS Hypatia-A. Registry number NCC 59422-A. It's an intelligence and reconnaissance vessel. That would bump you up to commander and potentially have you be its CO.
oh,
However, before any of that hits any sort of finality, all of you will get at least one more day as a former crew and operations unit of Horizon Station aboard Earth post this event. So, what that means is for the final session, during the next session of Star Trek Horizon, I will not have any bearing or control over what happens. That will be determined by all of you.
okay. And
But
we're on Horizon Station, right?
you'll be on Earth, actually.
Okay.
But for
We're
the
gonna be on
time
Earth.
being, that is where we will end this penultimate episode to this series.